Yeah, I wanted to talk about something that's I found myself discussing with people lately a lot. I was having discussions actually with someone just today about it. But over the past couple of weeks, I found myself sort of starting to have arguments with people online about it, and people on both the right and the left. It's an issue I'm seeing sort of discussed more and more, and it was kind of brought to the forefront again by Suella Braverman today, because she raised the subject in the media, and it's about the issue of, I guess, nationality, patriotism, and Englishness, where you identify, how you identify yourself, and where you see yourself as sort of being from. And Suella Braverman's comments, I found them very disappointing. Really, that she basically said that although she identifies as British, she doesn't and would never identify as English because she's, as she puts it, not ethnically English. And I guess what she seems to mean by that is that she's from Asian ethnicity originally, and she's not, I guess, essentially sort of white English. And therefore, in her opinion, that sort of that makes her British, but not English, essentially. And I think there's been this sort of concerted effort, I think, in the media for a long time, in the kind of mainstream, and even right from sort of school level, where they sort of deliberately try and sort of blur the lines around nationality and sort of patriotism and where you identify, or how you identify rather. Particularly right from school level, where you're sort of taught, that English being, England is bad. They always sort of focus on, the evils of the empire and sort of aspects like that, and never focus on the amazing sort of many, many positive things and the amazing things that England has done for the world, and the tremendous debt the world actually owes us in a lot of ways. They always just focus on the negatives, and every country has things that they rightly should be ashamed of, and including England. Would never suggest that there's not things about the English past that you learn about and you're sort of deeply embarrassed or ashamed about. That's the same for every country in the world. But by and large, England has had a massively, massively positive impact in the world. And in my, I guess, patriotic English opinion, unbiased English opinion, we are the greatest country in the world. So it saddens me greatly that someone like Suella Braverman, who was born here, has lived her whole life here, is brought up here, and is in my opinion, English, would not see themselves in that way, seemingly purely because of the colour of her skin, which I just think is so ridiculous. But like I say, I think it links back to the kind of the way society is at the moment, where sort of patriotism is almost seen as sort of a dirty word, and it's you're sort of almost encouraged to be sort of anything other than English. I think that's kind of true for white people as well, but particularly so for Asian and Black people, where people love to sort of say, where are you really from? Where's your culture? Your kind of heritage, and that's always very much the focus. And I feel like we've gone backwards as a society because 20 years ago, I mean, I was using this example today, but it's easy examples to use are celebrities, and you have people like sort of Linford Christie or Ian Wright, Frank Bruno, patriotic Englishmen who were quite rightly just seen as English. No one would ever have asked them, oh, but where are they really from? Where's their sort of their heritage or whatever? They were just seen as the Englishmen they were. I think that's kind of changed today, where anyone of, like I say, particularly sort of Asian or Black culture are almost sort of encouraged to identify more with the nationality that maybe their parents or their grandparents sort of emigrated from. And you'll hear people a lot, I mean, even sort of people on the right as well will talk a lot about English ethnicity. I mean, I was having an argument with someone who said, oh, Rishi Sunak's not English, he's British, but he's not English because he's not ethnically English. To kind of examine what they mean by sort of English ethnicity, I mean, essentially there seems to be, essentially they sort of mean white. But what is actual English ethnicity? I mean, it's the original inhabitants of this island are no longer here. We're primarily a mix of, I think, Anglo-Saxon and various other Northern European ethnicities and nationalities that have all sort of come in and merged together. And that just because of they were from Northern Europe, they happen to be white. It wasn't ever sort of originally from one specific small place. That's not how it worked. We're all a mix, really. And even if you look at it sort of purely in those terms, well, I'm of that heritage, that sort of mixed Northern European that sort of settled here and came here. No one's sort of pure. If you go through your family tree, go through something like Ancestry, if you go back more than a few generations, you're pretty much guaranteed to find that you have ancestors from other places. I mean, whether that just be from France, Germany, Scandinavia, Denmark, when you go back far enough, you'll find that you're not purely English. It's practically impossible when you go back far enough. Everyone is a mix. We're all immigrants originally. We're all a bit of a mix essentially. And I think part of it goes through because of the uncontrolled immigration. Like we now have people that, because traditionally when we had sensible controlled immigration, people would come, they would absorb our nationality, our culture, and our way of life, and our customs, and they would essentially become English. They did become English, and I think now that's not happening because people are coming. They're almost being encouraged not to accept our sort of culture and way of life, and so they're not integrating in the same way they did in the past because people are, coming in such bigger numbers. Like I say, 2023, whatever it was, we had almost 1 million net migration, extra people come, which is insane. So for me, this idea that you have to have, this sort of English ethnicity is such a sort of, a false one. I think that's very, very damaging. The idea that you can, essentially be born here, grow up your whole life here, speaking the language and the customs, and fully, believing yourself English, and that's England is what you love and you purely identify as English, but you're not really English just because you've got darker skin, I think is absolutely ridiculous. I think there's one main factor that indicates where someone is really from and what their nationality really is, and it's essentially what's in your heart. Which football team do you find yourself screaming for? What do you identify as? What's the country you're passionate about? What's the country you love? What's the country that's in your heart? For me, you don't even have to be born here. If you truly believe yourself to be English and you love this country and you're passionate about this country and you're patriotic and like I say, England is what is in your heart, then you are English. And don't ever let anyone tell you that you're not, or that just because you've got different heritage, going back a few generations or whatever, or even recent generations, that somehow means you're not English. If that's what if you're passionate about this country and you love this country and you consider yourself English, then you are English. And it's not to say you can't be proud of your heritage. You can't say, I don't know, be from Kenya and your parents maybe are from Kenya or your grandparents are from Kenya, but you've been born and brought up in this country and you fully identify as English. But you're proud of your heritage. That's absolutely lovely. I would never sort of say to people, oh, you should sort of dismiss your heritage or abandon your heritage. I think it's important to be proud of your past and your sort of ancestry as well. But it is very, very important in a functioning, cohesive society that it shares customs and values, and that ultimately you are proud of where you're from. So it's such a false narrative being driven by the media. Which is why I was very, very disappointed by Suava Brellaman's comments today. If you consider yourself English and English is in your heart, then you are English, and you're lucky enough to be part of the greatest country in the world.